A man named Simon Dorante-Day claims to be King Charles's and Queen Camilla's firstborn son. He claims that he was conceived sometime around when the two of them met. And to be fair, Simon Dorante-Day looks a lot like his acclaimed parents. So if this man is the real heir to the throne and not Prince William, what then? Is he going to be made Prince of Wales if a DNA test is done, which Simon Dorante-Day is pushing? But that's not all. One documentary I found on YouTube called "Is This Australian Man the Real King of England?" claims that a man living in Australia named Michael Edward Abney-Hastings is the rightful ruler of the UK. And if you look at the evidence and watch the documentary, they do put forth some good evidence. According to the documentary, King Edward IV, King of England from 1461 to 1483, was the illegitimate ruler of England because he was conceived when his alleged father, the king, and his mother were 160 kilometers apart. And that's not something that the documentary just said to prove their point. King Edward IV's mother was actually a long way away from her husband at the time of Edward's conception. So, it is believed or claimed that his mother and real father, an archer in the king's army, conceived King Edward IV. So if we trace the line of the person who should have been king instead of King Edward IV, which is probably his brother or something, then we end up with a man named Michael Edward Abney-Hastings, who, if this is true, should be the UK's king, not Charles. And it also means that monarchs like King Henry VIII, Queen Victoria, and even Queen Elizabeth herself were all illegitimate. So if either of these two cases are true, then what does that make the British monarchy? A fake? If Prince William isn't the firstborn son of King Charles, and furthermore, if King Charles isn't even the legitimate ruler of England, then should the British monarchy even be a thing? People are pushing for the British monarchy to be abolished, and as an Australian, I know some people who don't approve of having a non-Australian as our head of state. Now, disclaimer, I'm not an anti-monarchist, and I don't want it to end, or think it should. However, if the claims of Edward IV being illegitimate is true, which there is a fair amount of evidence to say that it was true, and if the British royal monarchy isn't willing to accept that fact and replace King Charles with the rightful heir to the throne, then is the monarchy even worth keeping? The whole point of making this video was to expose the facts and speak the truth, because I don't think most people even know about this stuff. But if these two things are true, especially the one about how Edward IV was illegitimate, then it must be known to people. So what do you think? Is Simon Dorante-Day the true Prince of Wales? Or is Michael Edward Abney-Hastings the rightful ruler of the UK? Or are both true? Watch the documentary about how King Edward IV was illegitimate here. 7 News, one of Australia's main news services, has covered what Simon Dorante-Day claims. So I guess just look up his name and you should find news about his claims.